Bibliophile series. In this series, we take up articles for analysis and dissection. This week, I've chosen to take up a slightly dated article from early 2010s. We will look at an article by Philip Ball, a contributor to BBC Magazine. And the article is about, will we ever understand why music makes us feel good? Let's go through it. Why do we like music? Like most good questions, this one works on many levels. We have answers on some levels, but not all. So, feature of a good question is that it should be working on many levels. And for this particular question, we have answers for some levels, but we don't have answers for and a comprehensive answer that encompasses all the exhaustive points that is not available. We like music because it makes us feel good. Why does it make us feel good? In 2001, neuroscientists Anne Blood and Robert Zatorre at McGill University in Montreal provided an answer. Montreal is a place in Canada. Using magnetic resonance imaging, they showed that people listening to pleasurable music had activated brain regions called the limbic and paralimbic areas, which are connected to euphoric reward responses. Now, euphoria means a state of pure bliss. So when you're listening to music, limbic and paralimbic areas get activated, and these areas are connected to a feeling of happiness, a feeling of joy, euphoric reward responses, like those we experience from sex, good food, addictive drugs. Those rewards come from a gush of neurotransmitter called dopamine. As DJ Lee Haslam told us, music is the drug. Okay, so some music proponent, DJ Lee Haslam, has also been referenced, and this is perhaps something he stated. But why? It's easy enough to understand why sex and food are rewarded with a dopamine rush. This makes us want more, and so contributes to our survival and propagation. Some drugs subvert that survival instinct by stimulating dopamine release on false pretenses. But why would a sequence of sounds with no obvious survival value do the same thing? The truth is, no one knows. Okay. Sex, food, and addictive drugs initiating that dopamine release is understandable. There is some purpose to them, especially for sex and food. But for drugs, there could also be under false pretenses that dopamine gets released. But why is music, a sequence of sounds, producing that dopamine? Why does that happen? No one knows. However, we now have many clues to why music provokes these intense emotions. Understand? The truth is no one knows. However, we now have many clues why music provokes these intense emotions. What is being stated is why there is no comprehensive theory that explains away everything. There are certain factors, there are certain clues available to us in order to make a claim in that direction. The current favorite theory among the scientists who study the cognition of music, how we process it mentally, dates back to 1956, when the philosopher and composer Leonard Meyer suggested that emotion in music is all about what we expect and whether or not we get it. Meyer drew on earlier psychological theories of emotion, which proposed that it arises when we are unable to satisfy some desire. That, as you might imagine, creates frustration or anger. But if we then find that what we are looking for, be it love or a cigarette, the payoff is all the sweeter. This, Meyer argued, is what music does too. It sets up sonic patterns and regularities that tempt us to make unconscious predictions about what's coming next. If we are right, the brain gives itself a little reward. As we'd now see it, a surge of dopamine. The constant dance between expectation and outcome thus enlivens the brain with a pleasurable play of emotions. Okay. So, why does music release dopamine? Why? We don't know. But then there is a theory by Leonard Meyer, who is a philosopher and also a composer. If you expect a certain outcome and it turns out that way, the brain rewards itself. If you expect a certain outcome and it doesn't turn out that way, it leads to frustration and anger. This is what his hypothesis is. This is what he's proposing. Why should we care? Though, whether our musical expectations are right or not. It's not as if our life dependent on them. Says musicologist David Hurian of Ohio State University. Ohio is a state in US. So it's not as if our life depended on them. Says musicologist David Huron of Ohio State University. But perhaps once it did. Making predictions about our environment, interpreting what we see and hear, say on the basis of only partial information, would once have been essential to our survival. And indeed, still often is, for example, when crossing the road. So what is being postulated is, see, food, sex, these are important for survival and population. But listening to music and predicting patterns, this is not important for survival. Then why is it that we are getting dopamine releases here? Then a musicologist, David Huron, is coming up with the insight, no. It may not appear that it is critical for survival, but there are certain situations in which being able to predict what is going to happen on the basis of partial information that is available for us, it is critical. For instance, when we are crossing the road, listening to sounds and then understanding where the cars are coming from or where the vehicles are coming from, so that you don't get hit on the road, that leads to your survival. That is where making predictions based on limited sonic input available to you is leading to survival goals being fulfilled. Okay. And involving the emotions in these anticipations would once have been essential to our survival. And involving emotions in these anticipations would have been a smart idea. On the African savanna, tropical regions are known as savanna. On African savanna, our ancestors did not have the luxury of mulling over whether the screech was made by a harmless donkey or a predatory lion. By bypassing the logical brain and taking a shortcut to the primitive limbic circuits that control our emotions, the mental processing of sound could prompt a rush of adrenaline, a gut reaction that prepares us to get out of there anyway. Okay, so we were making predictions based on partial sonic input that we had, and then there were times in our past when a screech made by some animal, you could not correctly logically identify it, whether it was being made by a braying donkey or whether it was being made by a predatory lion. So our brain has bypassed the logic circuits and reached to the primitive limbic circuits that is linked with emotion previously mentioned. And this emotional surge gives us a release of adrenaline that enables us to get out of the way, save yourself, protect yourself. See, if it's a donkey and you protect yourself, no harm, no harm. But if it's a lion, it is essential you end up protecting yourself. In either case, protecting yourself is the right move. And that is what this prediction and this reward mechanism essentially rewards. Okay. We all know that music has this direct line to the emotions. Who hasn't been embarrassed by the tears that well up as the strings swell in a sentimental film? Even while the logical brain protests that this is just a cynical manipulation. We don't turn off this anticipatory instinct, nor its link to the emotions, even when we know that there's nothing life-threatening in a Mozart sonata. Nature's tendency to overreact provides a golden opportunity for musicians, says Huron. Huron is David Huron of Ohio State University, musicologist. Nature's tendency to overreact provides a golden opportunity for musicians. Composers can fashion passages that manage to provoke remarkably strong emotions using the most innocuous of stimuli imaginable. The most innocuous stimuli being the sonic input that people are being exposed to, or the story that they are, as in whatever they are listening to. Okay. The idea that musical emotion arises from little violations and manipulations of our expectations seems the most promising candidate theory, which is to say all these different theories, none of them have been proven conclusively. Among them, the most likely theory, as per the author, is the musical emotion arising from little emotions and manipulations of our expectation. Seems like the most promising theory. But it is very hard to test. And this is perhaps the reason why it hasn't been conclusively proven. One reason for this is that music simply offers so much opportunity for creating and violating expectations that it's not clear what we should measure and compare. We expect rising melodies to continue to rise, but perhaps not indefinitely, as they never do. We expect pleasing harmonies rather than jarring dissonance. But what sounds pleasing today may have seemed dissonant 200 years ago. This is essentially talking of there has been evolution of music. So, for instance, let's say in early 1900s, listening to death metal would have been musically dissonant. It would have been very, very jarring experience sonically. But now there are connoisseurs of death metal as well. People like listening to loud, shrieking noises, and for them, that is music. So, this leads us to the conundrum. What exactly is music? How do you measure what expectation would be? This is perhaps the reason why this theory or this candidate theory has not been tested as much. Okay. We expect rhythms to be regular, but are surprised if the jumpy syncopation of rock and roll suddenly switches to four square oompa time. Expectation is a complicated, ever-changing interplay of how the piece we are hearing has gone far, how it compares with similar pieces and styles, and how it compares with all we've heard. If you've ever been to any DJ party or discotheque or any sort of musical setup, I'm sure you've heard of the term called the drop. This is when the music is ascending, it reaches a crescendo, and then it stops entirely, and then all of a sudden it goes in a different tune altogether. But the drop is a very, very interesting part, is a very, very interesting part of modern music experience. But then earlier, when you're engaging with this expectation-based mechanism, drop would not be a part of your expectation because you keep on going, keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. So this drop is perhaps a new revelation, a new experience that has now become a part of musical experiences, but previously was not there. Again, highlighting the fact that testing what is music, what is the expectation is very difficult, and therefore that is perhaps the reason why it has not been tested with great rigor. So one corollary of Mayer's theory is that emotion in music will be primarily culturally specific. Okay, in order to have any expectations about where the music will go in the first place, you need to know the rules to appreciate what is normal. This varies from one culture to another. So let's say if you took let's say a folk singer from Rajasthan, their voices are very distinct, the way they sing is very distinct, and you brought them over to, let's say, America's Got Talent. Perhaps the singer there will not get as much appreciation because the cultural constructs of what is music, what constitutes good sounds, is entirely different. So you need to have an understanding and appreciation of what is good music, and what is good music is defined by the culture that you're a part of. Western Europeans think simple rhythms like waltz, time are natural, but Eastern Europeans dance happily to meters that sound extraordinarily complicated to others. Okay, so while I'm giving you an example of Rajasthani folk singer and US, they are comparing Western Europeans and Eastern Europeans. All of us develop a strong subconscious sense of which notes sound right, whether in a sequence, in a melody, or sounding together in harmonies. But because different cultures use different scales and tunings, the scales of India and Indonesia, for example, don't respect the tunings of a piano. There is nothing universal about these expectations. A jolly piece of Indonesian music may be interpreted as sad by Westerners simply because it sounds too close to being in the traditionally sad minor scale. Okay. So for the Westerners, there is the minor scale, sad minor scale, something that appears to be in the sad minor scale could be a jolly piece of music in Indonesian music. Okay. This picture or this framework also implies that music isn't just about good vibrations. It can provoke other feelings too, such as anxiety, boredom, and even anger. If you ever watched a TV show, the background score, as in when tension is building up, when suspense is building, all of that sounds also gets a Pavlovian response from us, wherein we start expecting something insane is going to happen on screen, or there is a happy music, there is a laughing track. All these sounds gives us cue for what emotion we should be feeling. And over an extended period of time, we tend to associate these emotions with those sounds. Okay. Picture also implies that music isn't just about good vibrations, it can provoke other feelings too, such as anxiety, boredom, and even anger. Composers and performers walk a delicate tightrope, needing to tweak expectations to just the right degree. Not enough, and the music is dully predictable, as nursery tunes seem to adults. Okay? Too much, and we can't develop any expectations at all, which is why many people struggle with modernistic atonal music. Atonal without tone. So there needs to be a degree of surprise involved. Otherwise, it would appear dull, like for adults, how nursery rhymes appear dull to them. Also, the element of surprise should not be so wide-ranging that it becomes difficult to even process that music. The example being the modernistic atonal music without tone. Atonal means without tone. So perhaps an example could be the death metal that I was referring to earlier. All this can rationalize a great deal about why we feel emotions from particular musical phrases and performances. Meyer's ideas have received further support very recently from a brain scanning study by Zatorre and colleagues, which showed that the rewards stimulated by the music heard for the first time are particularly dependent on communication between emotion and logic circuits of the brain. Zatorre was also mentioned right at the beginning, Anne Blood and Robert Zatorre at McGill University in Montreal. Okay, but it's not the whole story. Our emotional response to music may be conditioned by so many other factors too, if we are hearing it alone or in a crowd. For example, if we associate a particular piece with a past experience, good or bad, dubbed the darling, they are playing our tune theory. Okay. Now, see, I'll tell you this awesome thing. It is not mentioned in the passage, but everyone, while growing up, you must have had some romantic crush along the way. Now, when you're in that silly phase, when you're in that silly phase, let's say aged 13 to 20, because that is more relevant for my generation. Maybe your generation, the age ranges have shifted. At that time, everyone falls hard in love with somebody in, or at least what they think is love with somebody. And at that time, you listen to a certain songs, you listen to a few melodies, and then you feel like this melody, this song has so much deeper meaning. And that happens with every generation. What happened with my immediate generation prior to me, for them, there was a set of songs that they absolutely loved. Then there was my generation, there was a set of songs that we absolutely loved. For the subsequent generations, these songs don't hold as much value, they don't have as much as in recall value. But for our generation, certain songs hold a lot of value. So this is essentially, while the song is independent, there is also an interplay of what we are associating with the song, what we are associating with that music. Maybe when you're initially in love or the first time you break up, there are these are the two phases in which you listen to songs and then you associate more meaning with them. And whenever you listen to the song, those emotions also come flooding back in, and thereby the response that you get is not only to the music, it is also with some event, some story of your life, which leads to an emotional outburst, leads to whatever emotions you're feeling at the time of listening to the song. Underneath all these ideas is the fact that we are not even sure what kind of emotion we are talking about. We can recognize sad music without feeling sad. And even if we do feel sad, it's not like the sadness of bereavement. It can be enjoyable even if it provokes tears. Okay. Music can evoke emotions, but even in emotions, there is a spectrum of emotions that you can have. See, there is a dread, there is fear, there is dread, there is fear, there is feeling afraid. But then not everyone enjoys feeling that emotion, but to a certain degree, certain people enjoy feeling it when they watch horror movies or horror TV shows where there are ghouls and ghosts and murderers and killers. So, to what extent is fear enjoyable? You cannot really you cannot really define that on a spectrum. In the same way, when we are listening to a sad song, the example here, when we are listening to a sad song, you you may recognize it is a sad song without necessarily feeling sad yourself, or you may feel sad, but it may not be as sad as when a family member has passed away. It is not as sad as bereavement, or even if it can still be enjoyable, even if it provokes fear. Sometimes you like soppy songs so much that you feel, oh, what a wonderful song. Although there is nothing directly making you feel the way the song is supposed to make you feel. Basically, the range of emotions is so wide, getting to the right naming convention. First thing was testing it is difficult. Second thing is even the chart that you make in order to record your responses, that chart cannot be made with absolute certainty because there is going to be different on the same spectrum of emotions. You're going to have people land at different spots. Okay. Some music, like some of Bach's, can create intense emotion even though we can't quite put into words what that emotion is. So we surely never understand why music stimulates emotions, at least until we have a better picture of what our emotional world is really like. So another musical piece that gained a lot of notoriety in my generation was this movie, Inception. The title track for this movie, Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio and everything, Hans Zimmerman. He was the composer. If you have time to spare, go listen to YouTube, Inception, background score, Hans Zimmerman, the music. You have absolutely, even if you've not watched the movie, you have no context of the music, movie is, listen to that music, it will definitely evoke emotions, or at least in our generation, this music was iconic. Anywhere, anytime, anywhere you listen to this music, everybody went into, okay, state of readiness. Something awesome is about to happen, something bad is about to happen, something drastic is about to happen. The music gave that emotion. Why it gave that emotion, how those certain chords and sequences lead to that outcome, we don't really know. And we don't really know because we don't really know what our emotional world is like. We say music evokes emotions, but how does music evoke emotions? It is not the contribution of music that is in challenge or that is a problem. It is our understanding of the emotional world that we are a part of. Even that is not clearly understood. So how can we measure, link these two together? What emotions do music lead to? That is what is being stated. So see, this is a, let's say, a thought-provoking piece. This is a thought-provoking piece. The author is simply giving us a lot of information, but he's also giving us certain statements of opinion. The author is also saying, by the end of it all, it's not like we have a definite answer available. The entire article is discussing why do we like music, some of the theories, some one particular theory that has been floated, why it is the most likely candidate for theory, for being the right reason why we like music, but why we can't be certain, the challenges with what our emotional responses are and what is our emotional world around it. We don't really have an idea of it, and we don't really have complete understanding of it, and therefore doing any sort of scientific research in order to come to a certain conclusion would not be valid. This is what the article is all about. Hopefully, the external references that I've given you help you understand it better. The statistical analysis will come up shortly. I think there are 1,205 words, 59 sentences, Flesh Kincaid grade level. This metric simply tells us what grade we should be, as in at what grade level would a person be able to understand this passage in entirety or to a certain, to a good degree. So 11.27, some class 11th and 12th students would be able to understand this properly. The reading score is 50.76. This is a fairly difficult text to read. It is not easy to comprehend. You need to have decent level of concentration and understanding in order to make sense of this entire passage. So that will be all for this episode. See you in the next one. Hopefully you learned something. Okay, bye.